This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Welcome back to another episode of Your Call, presented by the Headset app. Today's episode features Joel Nellis, head coach at Brookfield Central High School in Wisconsin. Coach Nellis takes us through his cultural reset, how after taking over from a successful predecessor, he crafted a new vision for the program rooted in one powerful value: sacrifice. From giving up play calling duties to spotlighting the quiet leadership of a scout team player, this episode reveals how embracing and celebrating sacrifice can unite a team and build a stronger identity. Before we get into it with Coach Nellis, let's hear from our sponsor, the Headset app.
The Headset app, a communication platform for coaches that makes sense. After all the technology we need is already in our pocket. No more time-consuming setup, lugging around cases, storing equipment, worrying about range, or finding the right location for your base station. The Headset app is an encrypted voice platform that is compatible with any Bluetooth headset or earbuds. The Headset app is a more secure, reliable, and easy-to-use communication system, delivered at just a fraction of the cost. Just open the app, put in your headphones, and go. At practice, on game day, or whenever. The Headset app. Download in the App Store or on Google Play today.
Here's Coach Joel Nellis.
Hi there. My name is Joel Nellis. I'm the head football coach at Brookfield Central High School in Brookfield, Wisconsin. I've been the head coach now going on 7 years, and I'm excited to talk on this podcast about our core values and the one that I think has proved to be the most valuable. At the end of the 2021 season, headed into 2022, I noticed that there were some things that I needed to change. I took over for a very successful head coach named Jed Kennedy, and he had created his own culture as a part of our program. And I had sort of adopted that culture and that saying, which was Me US Team, and continued that, and just felt like after 2021, we had kind of a rough year. I felt like I needed to do some things that were a bit different and kind of make things that were my own. And, we looked into a lot of different things and had really come about with, listening to the Focus 3 podcast. The Kite family, had put together a lot of stuff and resources on culture, but I wanted to make something that was our own and not just unique to me, but I'm always a person that believes in buy-in. So I met with our coaching staff and got their feedback because, without a great coaching staff buy-in, you're not going to have buy-in that's going to go down to the rest of the program. So I felt really strongly that we had to get some core ideas around what we wanted to do. And we came up with the idea of Brotherhood. And under Brotherhood, we came with sort of 5 stars or 5 core values. And those were discipline, which we labeled as the commitment to the highest standard regardless of circumstances, relentlessness, an uncommon effort to achieve your personal best, trust as anchored in the consistency of and accountability for your actions, sacrifice, it's not about me, and then unity being we're unbreakable together. And I think when it's really hard to pick one of those 5 and say that it's only one thing that can lead to our success, because we sort of view it as a continuum, right? If you're not relentless, if you're not disciplined, we can't trust you. That's going to be hard to put you on the field. But where I think that the magic is, especially with today's day and age, is really in that sacrifice piece. And, I found that even the idea of Me US Team, which is the sort of rally point that we had prior, was that really came along with the idea that it's not about you. And to be a part of the team, it has to be about more than just yourself. And I think kids really buy into that idea of being a part of something unique and different that's not just part of themselves. So I think there's 2 stories that I can sort of illustrate that I think would be helpful. The number one thing that I tell our team, I tell our parents, and I even spoke at a clinic this last weekend and talked about, was the idea that no one in our program gets everything they want. When I took over for Coach Kennedy, I really had the idea that I wanted to be a play caller. I hadn't had the opportunity to call plays at the varsity level. And then 2 years in, I realized how taxing it was to be both a play caller and a head coach. And so I had to take a step back from the thing that I wanted to do the most, which was play calling, and hand that over to another individual to call plays, someone that I trusted and believed in. The story that I want to highlight around sacrifice from my own personal side is what I'd like to share with the team every single year before we start. I share it at our parent meeting. I share with our players. I try to make it a reoccurring message throughout the course of the year, because I think it's really important to talk about the fact that everyone on our team is sacrificing. So when I took over for Coach Kennedy, the biggest thing I wanted to do is I wanted to be a varsity play caller. I'd only called plays on the JV level, hadn't got the opportunity to call plays on varsity. And I did so for the first 2 years with mixed results. I had a very talented team in which we got pretty good results on, and not as talented team that I think it kind of became overwhelming to do everything I needed to do with being a head coach and then the film study to be a coordinator. So I relinquished my play calling duties in my third season, handing it over to someone that I trusted that had been in our staff with me as an assistant and believed that he would do a really good job. And for me, I try to tell that story often to our players because it's a sacrifice on my behalf. I really lead with the sentiment that no one in our program gets everything they want. Me as the head coach, I would love to be able to call plays. Our offensive coordinator would love to be able to call the plays, right, that he wants to, or maybe he only wants to run all the time instead of pass all the time, and that's not indicative of what we want. All of our coaches maybe wish they had things they could put in. All of our players wish they had more carries. All of our players wish they had more reps, and then so on and so forth down the line. And I think it's a really important thing to illustrate that not everybody in the program gets what they want. And it's not just that, and that goes all the way up to the highest level of me being the head coach, but then also our top players. Our top players don't get everything that they possibly want. And it hasn't been like that ever in our program. So I think it's really important to know, and as a way to unify around sacrifice, is to let everyone know that they are not getting everything that they want. The story that I'm going to highlight that I think then goes even further is I look at a player named Evan Liakopoulos. Evan was a senior for us, and he had worked his guts out into his senior year and was competing for a chance to play. But, we had some other bigger bodies, and he sort of, not that he lost his spot, but, he was kind of in a different role where he was maybe a backup, but really a huge, role player for us on scout team. And Evan had the chance to take an internship at a high school level at a medical college of Wisconsin that was nearby. And so Evan, with what his role was going to be, we knew that it was going to be worth him going and maybe missing part of practice to then come back. Evan would come back fully padded for practice, even if it meant being there for the last 15 minutes. He didn't care. He wanted to help his team in whatever way possible. He gave his best effort. He stepped in where needed if it was to fill a role, maybe even in a position that he wasn't going to play, but he never wanted to come out of practice. And I think that permeated. The other thing that I'll give Evan a ton of credit for is one practice in the summer, his dog passed away, and they went there to the veterinary hospital, put his dog down, and then he came back to practice. And I give him a ton of credit that I bet that I was more than willing to give him the day off. I was more than willing to let him go, but he said that it was going to feel better for him to be there and to get his mind off of it. And when anyone else tells me they have something small going on, that they may need to miss for, they're not sure of, I can remind them that of the things that Evan did to sacrifice for our program and to put himself in a position to help. It wasn't the position that he wanted. He was a starter or playing more snaps, but he embraced the role that he had. He sacrificed in any way possible to help our team and contribute to our team in a meaningful way. And I think it's examples like that really can, unify your players. And I think if you look back, the best thing I enjoy about talking about sacrifice is that it's really on talking about the most highly decorated player. It usually is about those role players, those lower level players, anything and everything they can to help the team. And those are the guys that are never going to get enough credit for what they do, but it gives you a chance to amplify their voice and their story as a part of your team. And I really think that unifies all the players below and the players above. And you get to tell those stories over and over and over again. And I think it builds that other kids can now look and see what sacrifice could look like for them and how it could make them an important part of your team. And then lastly, what you reward gets repeated. And we have our core value awards that we award at our banquet. We don't do a most improved. We don't do an MVP. We have our awards that are voted on by the coaches. and given to the players. And obviously Evan, his senior year, won the Sacrifice Award. And those are something that will be, special and unique to him. He gets a plaque. He gets talked about at the banquet. We share examples of what he did. And then this year, I'm going to look to put together a board that lives in our locker room that shows those core value winners year after year. So again, I hope that culture, something that you guys are actively working on. Don't be afraid to make changes in your culture, but work with your coaching staff and your players to get a pulse of what your identity is. And then the one thing I would say is a big recommendation is don't be afraid to repeat yourself. I think the more I look at it, I have to do a better job of repeating my stories and repeating our core values and emphasizing them day after day, because I think that will be ingrained in our players and that will help us with better results. Best of luck this upcoming season and in the future. Take care.
That wraps up this week's Your Call, presented by the Headset app with Coach Joel Nellis. His story reminds us that real leadership often means stepping back, lifting others up, and embracing roles we never expected. Whether it's a head coach giving up play calling or a backup player showing up every day with purpose, sacrifice is the thread that binds successful teams together. Thanks for listening. Share this with a coach who's building a culture the right way, and remember, what you reward gets repeated. Be sure to check out our partner, the Headset app, an innovative technology that gives you your headset system right there on your phone. You can expand this as big as you need, making sure every coach on your staff has a headset for game day or practice, and it's extremely affordable. Check out the Headset app. The link is in the show notes.